Welcome to Camo Sports, a weekly podcast where we discuss sports topics from the college level all the way to the professional level. This is also a welcome back if you watched my podcast about a year ago. I had to take a break from all the podcast stuff because, one, I wanted to focus on my senior year, and I got really, really busy during all that, so I just really didn't have time for that. And then I brought all my podcast equipment to my dorm because, obviously, if you can't tell from the eagle right there, I'm at Georgia Southern, and I was planning on podcasting and starting this back up. But my first semester, I majored in biology, and I hated it. I was working 24/7. I was studying 24/7, and I just didn't have time to do anything I wanted to. So I ended up changing my major this semester into sports management, and then I'm planning on going to sports broadcasting. So now I have time for the podcast, which is what I want to do in my life. So hopefully I can just continue and stay consistent enough. So sorry for not being consistent in the past. I know that people wanted it and like people were commenting on like my dad's Facebook or something, but it should be back. Like I said, this is going to be a weekly podcast. My plan is for every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to release a podcast episode every single week. Obviously, this could change because of college, but I'm going to for sure try to get everything out. If you just look up Camo Sports, you should find it. But it should be on all podcast websites. So that could be Apple Podcasts, or that could be Spotify, you name it. It should be on just about every one of them. I'm a little bit rusty when it comes to this stuff, so it may not be on some things, but I'm going to try my best. And if it's not on something, just somebody let me know on my social media or something, and I will try to make that happen. Also, you can look at my Buzzsprout. There should be a link in the description. I hope I remember to put a link. Cameron, please remember to do that, by the way. But there should be a link on my Buzzsprout account that should take you directly to my. Or if you don't really like the podcast setting, and if you want a face cam, you can go to my YouTube. It's also Camo Sports, and you can see my ugly little face if you want to. So, hey, if you're actually looking at me, but I wouldn't want to look at myself. Who would want to look at me? But I'm also going to try to do weekly streams. I know when it comes to streaming, it's supposed to be like a daily thing or like multiple times a week. I am a college kid, so everything's tentative to change. But I'm going to try to stream on Twitch at least once a week. Well, once a week for sure, and then as the year progresses, if I feel like I have time, then I'll start doing it multiple times a week. My Twitch is Camo Sports, and you can find me there and just goof off, have a good time. Some people like that stuff, and if you don't know what Twitch is, you will get to watch me live, just playing video games, just goofing off. I mean, that's really all it is. That's some people's cup of tea, some people it isn't, but I mean, if you want to, just come on, just have a good time. My streaming should be on Fridays as well. That's what I'm planning on because I don't have classes on Fridays at 8 p.m. to whatever time I decide to get off or whenever I'm tired and just bored, I guess. The games I'm going to be streaming is I'm going to for sure stream College Football 25. I'm going to start a Road to Glory series. More than likely going to be a quarterback. And I'm going to start a Dynasty series. Somewhere I play every game, somewhere I simulate every game, recruit, all that good stuff. I used to be pretty good at this game, but I haven't played in a while because, like my semester got so hectic and crazy that I really didn't play those games a lot. So I'm actually really rusty. I'm actually really bad when I was trying to play earlier, so it should be fun. I have anger issues, so see me rage and probably get mad, so that'll be interesting. I'm also going to play Marvel Rivals because I'm really in love with that game right now. I'm not very good. If you know what I'm talking about, I'm a support, I'm a healer, because I'm not good at those shooting games. I'm really not. But I'm going to stream some of that too, and hopefully, I hope he's listening to this right now. Hopefully he is. I'm going to kill him if he's not. My little brother Connor, who's actually really, really good at these type of games, he's going to be on the stream with me, so maybe he can carry me because I'm absolutely horrible, and I just sit there and heal him the entire time. You know, I'm a Mantis main. If that tells you anything, I just sit there and heal Connor and give him damage boost. That's all I really do. Also, with the Twitch stream, what's good about it is there's actually a live chat thing where I can read chats live that messages that y'all want to send me. So also, if y'all want to type in that chat, I can answer any of your questions that you have me that could be sports related, or you can just simply say how's your day? What color's the sky? I mean, I'll answer anything you want to say in that chat. But as I said, I'm a college kid, so everything's tentative to change. But I'm going to try to be consistent for sure. I'm going to post weekly on Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And then also that same Friday, I should be posting streams, hopefully. You may be asking yourself, how will I know if you're busy? How will I know if it's going to get delayed? I know no one's asking that, but I'm going to pretend like some people are actually asking that. If you want to know if something's going to change, you should follow my social media. Like it's his X or Twitter now, whatever Elon Musk wants to call it these days. My Twitter is Camo Sports or at Camden Monsiak. My TikTok is Camden Monsiak or Camo. I'm not really sure which one it is. I don't know. TikTok may get canceled. I don't even know what's going on with that. But my Instagram is camo_m_4. And then my Facebook is just Camden Monsiak. I'm trying to be more active when it comes to Twitter. If you look at my Twitter right now, I'm giving live reactions and thoughts about games that I'm watching. Like last night, I did the Rams and Vikings one, and I was just goofing off and just giving my opinions on that. It's not completely serious, but it's also kind of serious. But yeah, like I said, I will post live reactions and thoughts on what is happening in the sports world and just goofing off and just trolling. I'm also going to post when I'm streaming and when I post my podcast on there. And then TikTok, I'm also going to be notifying. I'll send like a video out when I post my podcast and when I'm streaming. I'm also going to post clips from my podcasts and streams, hopefully, if I can get that to work. I'm not the best with technology, but I'm going to try. And then Instagram, I don't know if I'm going to make an actual post because obviously I have a very unpleasing look to me and I'm pretty ugly. So I don't like to post myself a lot, like my actual face. But I'm going to be posting on my Instagram story for sure so then I can delete so I don't have to look at myself for much long. And that's also, I'm just going to be notifying you when I post my podcast or when I post my streams. Facebook, once again, I'm not going to be making posts because, let's be honest here, if you want to see me, you can just look at my parents' Facebook. Most of y'all probably have that are listening right now. There's plenty of terrible pictures from me from every single age. So y'all can just go to their social media stuff. By the way, I love you, Mom and Dad. That was not a shot at you, but y'all post a lot. And then I'm also on Facebook. I'm going to be notifying when I am podcasting and streaming. And then, as I mentioned about the link in the description, my Buzzsprout account, there's going to be links to everything. If you can't find my social media, it should be on my Buzzsprout account. There's a link in the description, hopefully, or a link in every one of my social media stuff. That you can just click that and it will send you right to the podcast. It will send you right to my Twitch, right to everything. Also, if you have any questions for me, if you have advice to give me, if you want things for me to talk about on the podcast or just to have a simple conversation, I'll answer anything. Just DM me, message me, comment on my YouTube or chat or anything and I'll get back to you. I really want to get better at this and I know one way to get better at things is to get feedback from people. And I want to hear how I can improve as a podcaster and I guess a content creator, I guess what you would call it now, as I'm trying to make this my profession. So I really want to know how I can make myself better and how I can entertain y'all better. So just let me know if you have any advice, any tips, anything like that. And also share this podcast with your friends and your family. And if you're watching this on YouTube, give it a like and subscribe if you enjoy. It would really help out. But I also don't blame you because I'm very bad at this and I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm going to try to get better. Anyway, the last thing I was going to mention is a fair warning. If you can't see by my shirt, not my shirt, my sweatshirt right here, I am a Georgia fan. I am a fan of all Georgia sports, so that could be the Atlanta Falcons, the Georgia Bulldogs, of course, the Atlanta Braves, or the Atlanta Hawks. Pretty much all the Atlanta teams. That's how my dad raised me. So the bias may come out sometimes. Unfortunately, I'm going to try to stay as neutral and try not to just be a homer so much, but it's obviously going to come out sometimes. Obviously, I mean, I'm already wearing a Georgia sweatshirt, so I love my teams, but I also know they suck, like every one of them, except for the Braves. But they have that's a whole other discussion for another day. I hate our team. But yeah, so hopefully I'm not too biased, but it may come out, so I do apologize for that. Okay, that was a lot of yapping about nothing, but basically just check me out in all my social media. I'm going to be posting weekly. Comment and subscribe, give it a like, and just let me know anything that you have. Just go ahead and let me know, and then I'll get back to y'all, and hopefully y'all continue watching me. But anyway, that's enough yapping because I know you are tired of me talking already probably. But the topics I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about purely college football because that is probably my favorite thing to watch, college football, best time of the year. But I'm going to be talking about the college football semifinal games, and I'm also going to give my prediction for the national championship game. The first game that we're going to be talking about today is the Penn State versus Notre Dame game. The final score ended up being Penn State 24, Notre Dame 27, Notre Dame coming out on top. Going into the playoffs, I hadn't watched much of either team, to be honest. I watched bits and pieces of the Penn State versus Ohio State game, but I hadn't really watched any Notre Dame because, I'm fed up with Notre Dame. I mean, they're not in a conference. They don't play anybody. I'm pretty sure they lost to Northern Illinois this year. I just don't give them attention, if I'm being honest. I just don't really care to watch them. But going into the playoffs, I knew that Penn State also had an easy road to the playoffs and didn't really beat anybody. So I really didn't expect them to do much, except for the fact that they had an easy road once they got in the playoffs. And I actually predicted them to be in the national championship game, so I got that wrong too. Figuring out my predictions are really, really bad. I'm starting to figure that out. But I predicted Penn State versus Oregon in the national championship game, and neither of them got there. So, yay me. But I knew Penn State, they had an easy road. They didn't play much anybody. But once the playoff seeding came, and the playoff seeding in the format so stupid. But they had an easy road, and I thought they would be in the national championship game, but Notre Dame stopped that, obviously. I knew Abdul Carter from the clips and some of the games I've watched. He's an absolute beast. Speaking of which, Falcons, can you please trade up for this man? We really, really, really need him. Is Micah Parsons 2.0. Please, please, please trade up. We need some defensive help, please. Okay, but I also knew that people were high on Drew Out. I am not one of those people. I am not high on Drew Outler. There was a mock draft I saw the other day that had Drew Outler going 3rd overall to the Giants, and he was getting drafted over like Shedeur Sanders. That is insane. No, actually, I think he was the 2nd pick. I can't remember who has 2nd pick, but anyway, it was like Drew Outler was like the 2nd quarterback taken if he decides to declare for the draft. I think that's stupid. I do not like Drew Outler at all, and I'll go into detail about that later. I just don't think he's that good. I see the arm talent, but I know a lot of people were high on him, so I knew that, so I was really looking for that. And then I knew they had one of, if not maybe the best tight end in the country, and Tyler Warden. He's one of the best tight ends in the country, I knew that. And then going in Notre Dame, I also know they didn't play anybody, and with the stupid playoff format, they're automatically in the playoffs every year because they don't play anybody and they don't have a conference game. Can you please be in the conference? Okay, so sorry about that. But before playoffs, I thought they weren't very good at all. I just saw bad competition, and I know at the end of the year they started blowing out teams, but also the teams they were blowing out were very low-level Division I teams, almost should be Division II. Like that's the competition that I saw them play. And despite that, even though I didn't think they were that good, I picked them over Georgia in my bracket. I picked them over Georgia because I knew Georgia wasn't very good all year, and it was obvious if you watched any of our games. Our defense really couldn't tackle, and we really didn't fly around the ball. And once you got past our first string, our second string, and our backups are not very good. And then I knew that we had our backup quarterback with Carson Beck, and even with Carson Beck, we already sucked, and our offensive line can't block. And Mike Bobo needs to be fired. He should have been fired yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that. He's absolutely terrible. Arian Smith, I think I can catch better than Arian Smith. Our receivers can't get open. We can't run the ball. Can't pass the ball. We can punt, but our punter got hurt. And we can kick field goals, but we can't get to the other side of the field for a field goal. So what are we supposed to do? We're just not good, okay? We're just not good. You see this G, it holds a lot of weight, and that's the reason why we were ranked number 2 in the country. Because if you watch the games, we're not that good. Sorry to get on that rant. I knew going into the playoff, I did not like their quarterback. I still don't like their quarterback. And Riley Leonard, I don't think he's very good at all. I mean, I guess he gets the job done, and he's a big physical dude. Like, I watch a lot of sports broadcasting stuff, like with videos and like people talking about sports and all that. And I saw that Colin Cowherd compared him to Josh Allen. I guess he's doing it for clicks, I guess, but it's just so stupid to me. He's nothing like Josh Allen should be the MVP this year. You're just trying to get clicks. That's the only thing I can tell you. I don't think he's that good. And then I really like their running back, Jeremiah Love. I think he's a sophomore. I know he's not even 20 years old yet, but I think that once he gets in the NFL, I think he'll be a serviceable NFL running back whenever he declares. So he still has another year, and heck, he may be on the cover of College Football 25. How good he is! I really like him, and I think he's going to be a pretty good running back. And for some reason, me and my dad always talk about this when we're watching Notre Dame or when they have a big time game. Me and him are watching. Notre Dame always seems to have a really big tight end. I don't know why. They would just always have some big dude, and he's a tight end, and like he's not very fast, but he's just big and catch the ball. They always seem to have one. I don't know how they do, but for the past 5 or 6, 7 years, I've thoroughly watched it, and I don't remember a season where they didn't have a tight end. That was pretty good, like that. Now I'm actually going to the game. Until about the fourth quarter, it was a snooze fest. I'll be completely honest with you. In that first half, I about fell asleep. These games start late, by the way. I don't like how it starts so late. I wanted to start earlier. I guess because everybody has to get off of work, but still. I don't like getting done with the football game and it's 12 o'clock or like 11:30. I don't really like that. But the first half was absolutely brutal, and I'm a fan of defensive games. I'm good with the defense completely stopping the offense, and I find that entertaining sometimes. I legit do. But it was just a hard watch. Nothing happened throughout almost the entire game until the fourth quarter. I debated going to bed a bunch of times. It was just bad. Like my eyes were getting really, and just yeah, it was just really boring. But that fourth quarter picked it up. The fourth quarter was pretty good, and then it turned it around. But my takeaways from the game is, like I talked about earlier, I don't see what everyone sees in Drew Rattler. I really don't. I get that he has a big arm, he's a big dude, and I guess he throws a pretty football. I mean, I guess so. I mean, during this game, he was 12 for 23, 135 yards, one interception, and a QBR or quarterback rating of 72.3. And he fumbled, but he did recover it. So, I mean, it's not technically a fumble, but it technically is, you know what I mean? But, yeah, he has a big arm, but he makes questionable decisions, and I don't think he's that accurate. Granted, have I watched him as much as I've watched Carson Beck? Or watched him as much as I've watched Shedeur Sanders? No, I have not. So maybe that could have been his absolute worst game, and I'm just oblivious, and I just need to rethink my opinion. I need to go watch. But I just don't think he's that good from everything I've seen. And that might have been the second full game of watching Drew Rattler. He just doesn't impress me. I mean, he's a good college quarterback. I mainly talk about going to the NFL. I just don't see him being a good NFL quarterback. And the fact that somebody predicted him to be drafted over Shedeur Sanders is just dumb to me. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be really good in the NFL. We can talk about that later. But, yeah, I just think Drew Rattler has bust written all over him. I think he'll get drafted high because he'll do one of these Zach Wilson throws at like a pro day or something where he does a triple backflip, closes his eyes, and throws the ball with his feet 750 yards or something like that. And you'll be like, whoa, he's really good. And then you turn on tape, and it's like, oh, he's not good, like Anthony Richardson. But I just don't think he's that good, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Y'all help me. Y'all tell me. I just don't think he's that good. And then Riley Leonard in this game, I mean, I don't think he's that good, but that's just because, like, I don't think he's that talented. But he's a dog. I'll give you that. He's a tough dude. I mean, he was definitely concussed, and he played through it and everything, but I just don't see him as a good quarterback to begin with. He was 15 for 23, 223 yards, one touchdown, two picks, and the 80 QB rating, and then also his best thing is his rushing, of course, because he's a bigger kid. He's actually a basketball player, and if you watch his basketball highlights, I honestly think that he's a better basketball player than he is a football player, because the basketball highlights that I saw were disgusting. Granted, it is highlights, and Dad tells me all the time that when you're watching highlights, if Dad pulled up his highlights from high school, he would look like an NBA player. So, granted that, so he probably isn't, but from the highlights, he looks really good. But anyway, he had 35 yards and a rushing touchdown. But honestly, I'm dead serious. I think their offense looked better with their backup quarterback. It looked a lot smoother. I think their backup quarterback, how do you say his name? Steve Angel? We're going to go with Steve because I can't pronounce names, okay? I'm sorry. Really bad names. But, yeah, I think they look better with their backup quarterback. They just look smoother running down. I think it was like 6 for 7. I don't have it written down. But it was like 6 for 7. That drive, they were moving the ball down the field, and they were great. I honestly think he's a better quarterback. Now, am I saying he should play in the national championship game? No, I'm not saying that. Because you stick with the quarterback you've been playing with all year. But I also think that the backup quarterback may be a better quarterback. But it's too late to make a change, so I'm not saying bench Riley Leonard in the national championship game. I'm not saying that. But that's just from what I saw. I also don't know much about this kid, and that kid may have played the game of his life. You never know. One thing that I didn't know that I got watching this game, I absolutely love both running backs from Penn State. I'm sorry, I should have gave a warning at the beginning. I'm not good at pronouncing names, so if I get the names wrong, I'm sorry. I'll say the number so maybe you know who I'm talking about, but sorry in advance. Nicholas Singleton, number 10, and Katron Allen, number 13. They're really good, and they actually both announced that they're coming back for their senior year. I guess it's their senior year. I don't know. Years of eligibility are just confusing nowadays, but yeah, they're announcing that they're both going to be back, so that's going to be something to watch out for. So Penn State will be right back in the mix. And then probably get blown out again. Not blown out. They're going to beat Georgia next year, obviously, because we're going to be terrible. But Nicholas Singleton, he had 15 carries for 84 yards, averaged almost 6 yards a carry, and he had 3 touchdowns. He also added 2 receptions for 33 yards. But then Katron Allen had 19 carries for 82 yards, 4 yards a carry, and had 1 catch for 6 yards. And Penn State ended up running the ball for 204 yards, which is insane how you in the playoff you're running for 200 yards. Like, they were running the ball all over them. I thought Penn State offensive line, they were better than what I thought, especially against Notre Dame's defense, because fair enough, Notre Dame's defense is good. I'm sorry, they're good. But those running backs were making something out of nothing, and I actually like both of them. But obviously, the best running back on the field is Jeremiah Love. Now, he was hurt. He got hurt in was it the Indiana game? I believe he got hurt there after his 98-yard run or something like that. But he was playing hurt. If you noticed during the game, he on his knee. I can't remember what knee it was, but he had a big old brace on there. So he was playing hurt. So he was a little bit limited, but he had 11 carries for 45 yards, averaged 6 yards a carry, and had a touchdown. And that touchdown run was impressive. How on the goal line when he broke all those tackles and was avoiding defenders, that was actually really good. And for him to be hurt just tells you what character that guy has for actually wanting to play and be out there for his team. He's probably already one of the best in the country right now, but he'll be one of the best next year too. And then Tyler Ward, number 44, their tight end. He's a beast, obviously. I knew that coming in, and that game just showed me even more. I didn't know they used him all over the field, especially on that first drive. They lined up for Wildcat and him at quarterback like 3 different times. I was actually really shocked about that. But he had 6 receptions for 45 yards, but yeah, he's a beast. He'll be a serviceable NFL tight end. He'll be good. He won't be Brock Bowers now, but he'll be better than Kyle Pitts. And then Notre Dame's big tight end. I told you they always have a big tight end. I'm trying to tell you. I don't know how they do, but Mitchell Evans, number 88, he had 5 receptions for 58 yards. And Notre Dame's receivers, they're not great. That's probably one of their biggest deficiencies with Notre Dame. Jaden Greathouse had 7 receptions for 105 yards and a touchdown. Williams, number 20, had 5 receptions for 66 yards. Jordan Fairson, number 6, 2 for 25. And yeah, like I said, Notre Dame's receivers don't impress me at all, but they just keep hitting these short routes, and they're all just timing routes. That Riley Leonard just likes to deke and dunk, which I guess you have to do that when you have a quarterback like Riley Leonard, who's not very accurate and is not that good of a quarterback, in my opinion. You have to just keep doing the short routes and just make it easy, run the ball, which that's Notre Dame's game plan. I mean, I'm making fun of how they play, but I mean, they absolutely destroyed Georgia with those short routes, and we absolutely couldn't do anything the entire game, and we're supposed to be one of the best defenses in the country. Sorry. But the story of the game, obviously, you probably already heard because I'm getting this out a little bit late, was Penn State's receivers didn't have a single catch during the game. You're never going to win a football game like that if your receivers literally have no catches throughout the entire game. Part of it was the receivers' fault because the receivers really weren't getting open. The receivers really weren't making contested catches. They weren't running the crispest of routes. Maybe they're just not that good. But some of it was Drew Outler. Some of it has to be put on him because he wasn't very accurate. He wasn't good. He wasn't getting to his progressions. There were open receivers sometimes, but he just looked them off and didn't even look at their way. But most of that is because of Notre Dame and Notre Dame's defense because their defense is really good. Their secondary is really good. Yeah, so mainly just their pass defense is really good. Like, I just found out on ESPN that Ryan Clark's son is actually on Notre Dame. I thought that was pretty cool. But, yeah, their defense is really good, and they're playing really good and playing connected. But also, Penn State's defense also played good throughout the game, and that was mainly due to Abdul Carter absolutely wrecking havoc all night. And apparently he was a little bit banged up from what Kirk Herbstreit was talking about with his, shoulder or something, but I couldn't tell. He had 5 tackles, a sack, and 2 TFLs, but I'm telling you, you had to watch the game. The stats do not tell the story with Abdul Carter. He wrecks havoc the entire game, and you got to double team him. That's just how it is. And I'm going to try to stop after this, but please, Atlanta, trade up. We really need some defensive help, but we need a pass rusher. Please, please. You drafted Arnold Ebiketie, who's also from Penn State. He's not very good, but he had an okay year this year. But he's not very good, so you already drafted a Penn State edge rusher, so why don't you just trade up for this one? Just trade up for this one, please. Please, I need help. We're terrible on defense now, for some reason. After being one of the best defenses in the league for half the year, and then all of a sudden we forget the tackle. And we still can't rush the passer because we spend random draft picks on quarterbacks when we gave a quarterback $40 million a year without an Achilles. Please. Okay, I'm done. Then on Penn State's final drive, he made a really bad throw and a really bad decision on the last drive that pretty much cost them the game. If I remember correctly, it's been a while since that game. I think it was a dig route. And there was other progressions that he was getting through. So he decided to go through one of his last progressions, and he had to throw across his body, almost like a sidearm throw, and threw it across the middle of the field. And that's just not a smart decision. And it cost him the game, obviously. I've been over it enough. I don't think Drew Aller is that good, man. I really don't. I saw some people like Paul Feinbaum. Is that how you say his name? I don't know. But he was talking about how Penn State and James Franklin, their game management was terrible. I don't think that was poor game management at all. I mean, you're supposed to have apparently one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, so you should go for the win. Even if you don't think your quarterback's that good, there's so much time left on the clock that I think you should have enough. If you just concede going into overtime right there, I feel like that's almost like telling your team, yeah, you suck. Like, you're not very good. If you just continue to run the clock out, even though your receivers haven't caught a single pass the entire night. But I don't think that was a bad decision at all. But my final thoughts of the game was I still don't think Notre Dame's offense is very good at all. I think the run game is good with Jeremiah Love. I think he's a great back. But I don't like the receivers. I really don't like the quarterback. I'm saying all this and they beat Georgia. But he's good in the run game, but I just don't see it in the pass game. But their defense is legit. Don't get me wrong. Their defense is legit, especially their pass defense. Their pass defense is good. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I think Texas beats Notre Dame. I think Oregon beats Notre Dame. And I possibly think Ole Miss beats Notre Dame, in my opinion. Okay, that one's a little iffy. I'm just being my SEC bias right there. But for sure, I think Texas and Oregon beat Notre Dame. I know it's crazy to say that after Oregon's performance in the playoff, but they had a bad game. I mean, come on. Like, that happens sometimes. It wasn't their day. I mean, if they played another game, that game wouldn't have been this far. And also, Ohio State, we'll talk about them in a second. But last thing I'll end with this when I talk about that game. Join a conference, Notre Dame. It's not fair. You shouldn't be able to be in the playoff if you don't even have a conference championship game. Okay, sorry for getting loud. But then we're going to move on to the next game. It was Ohio State versus Texas. The final score ended up being Ohio State 28, Texas 14. I was wide awake for this game, and I was entertained throughout most of the game. And I think probably because I hate both of these teams. I think both of them, they are both cocky. They both like to talk about themselves, and they're the media's darlings a lot of the time. And I think their fan base is also trashy people, and they just make me mad. I just don't like them. Coming into this game, I knew a lot more about Ohio State and Texas than I did Penn State versus Notre Dame. I knew Ohio State had the most expensive roster in the college football with like $20 million or something like that. And I knew they had two elite running backs that are capable of taking over a game and going to the house whenever they want to. Junkins and Henderson, I think both of them were really good. And then they had the best receiver room in the country all year with the veteran who I feel like has been there for like 7 years. Emeka Ibuka, or I like to call it Ikabuga. That's what me and Dad call him. They have the young receiver who's going to be a problem next year, Cardinal Tate. And then they also have Julio Jones. Jeremiah Smith. Do I need to say anything about that guy? I mean, I just compared him to my favorite player ever and one of the greatest receivers to ever do it. So that tells you all you need to know about that guy. But I also knew their defense was old and experienced. I know they were like all seniors and juniors pretty much across the board. And they've all played together for so long at Ohio State. So I knew they were really good. And then they were led by Jack Sawyer, who embraces Ohio State and what really a Buckeye is supposed to be. Whatever a Buckeye is, I don't know what a Buckeye is. And they also have, who I think is the best player in the country outside of Travis Hunter, is Caleb Downs. They just put him in the middle of the field. He just controls everything. He's not like your typical safety. And they just put him in the middle of the field and say, that's your zone. Do whatever you want. And he just infects the game so much. Beside Travis Hunter, by the way, I think he's the best player in the country. And by the way, people, you are stupid if you say Travis Hunter didn't deserve that Heisman, by the way. And Ashton Jeanty deserved that. That's a discussion for another day if we want to have it. But one played in the group of five. One played in the Power Four. One played both sides of the ball the entire game and was a playmaker. And if he decided to stay on one side of the ball, his stats would have been insane at that. But he decided to play both. And snaps is a stat. If you don't think so, you clearly haven't ever played football in your life. Because it clearly is a stat. So that's a discussion for another day. No hate to Ashton Jeanty, by the way. He's a great running back, but Travis Hunter deserved it. I also thought it was stupid that they were calling for Ryan Day's job Ohio State fans were after losing to Michigan again. I mean, I get it. Michigan's your rival, but dude's offensive game plans are always creative. They're always great. They're way better than my Bubos. They always work for the most part, except for against Michigan, which I guess that's their big game. But still, you shouldn't fire a guy. I mean, you're not gonna get much better than Ryan Day. I'm sorry to tell you. And I knew going into the playoff that if Ohio State didn't get in their own way, would that be penalties or just missed assignments or effort, if Will Howard didn't turn the ball over, and if the O-line protected him, that they would be tough to beat. Now, I didn't see this. I don't think anybody really expected this, what we're seeing from this Ohio State team, but I'll get into that in a second. And then I watched Texas the most out of these four teams, obviously. Steve Sarkisian, even though he is a crybaby, and he's a know-it-all, and I hate how he goes about his business and everything. I just don't like it. But I got to give him credit. He is an absolute gamer. He is creative. He's a great offensive play caller. Quinn Ewers was actually my Heisman pick at the beginning of the year. I thought he would have a big year, and he ended up getting hurt. But I still really like him. I think he makes good decisions for the most part, and he's accurate with the football. He's way overhated, in my opinion. I think the only reason why he's overhated is because Arch Manning is a Manning. And don't get me wrong, he's the truth. I mean, he's really good, and he might be better than Quinn Ewers. But still, everybody just hates on Quinn Ewers, and I just don't like that. Anyway, I really like their two running backs in Wisner and Blue. I think they're both explosive, and they could take over games as well. I think they get overshadowed a bunch because this Texas team in big games hasn't been able to run the ball much. But I really like both of them, and heck, they scared me a lot when they played Georgia. And Sark really likes to use the play action, and the only way play action works, obviously, is if you run the ball and you have a threat to run the ball. That actually the play action starts working. That's a very important part of their offense. I thought their weapons are really iffy. They were hit and miss throughout the entire year. Golden really stepped it up during the playoff. He really stepped it up. But during the year, he wasn't that great. Isaiah Bond is a big whiff. I thought he was really good coming out of Alabama, but he's been a disappointment. He was hurt, but he had a big drop. And it's just like Aaron Smith. And then they had a young receiver, a freshman, Wingo. He's going to be good one day, but obviously he's not there yet. Then they obviously have the best offensive line in the country. They have a top 10 pick in Kevin Banks. He's going to be a top 10 pick. He's a stud. They got a little bit banged up through this playoff run, but they're still really good. I love their offensive line. Their defense is legit, especially those DBs. I won't name every one of them because there's so many for them. I don't want to overshadow any of them, but they're really good. Their pass defense is really good. And then I knew going in this game that it was going to come down to if Texas could run the ball and if they could stop the run, because everything else I had no worries about with Texas. And I thought they had enough. And they didn't play anybody all year, and they couldn't beat Georgia for some reason because we weren't that very good. My takeaways from the game was it was actually a really good game throughout the entire game. The game close and both teams played their butts off. I thought they competed very well from start to finish for the most part until the very end. But I think both defenses showed out. Ohio State created pressure all game, and they fly around and rally to football. They just play with an aggression and anger, like somebody hitting their girlfriend or something. They just play so mad. And they forced Quinn Ewers to have to get creative and move in the pocket. He's more of a pocket passer. And credit to Quinn Ewers. Later in that game, he was actually improvising and stuff. But they made him really uncomfortable, and they stopped the run, which was a really key part of the game. And then Jack Sawyer with a scoop and score to end the game against his former roommate and Quinn Ewers, which is a pretty funny story. And number 44, JT. I'm not going to try to pronounce that name. I'm not. He got hurt with his ankle and played through it, but Jack Sawyer and number 44, they were all over the field and they showed up. They're both going to the NFL. Caleb Downs is basically a middle linebacker in a safety's body. He's Ed Reed. He's Troy Polamalu. He just controls everything in the middle of the field. And obviously, at the end of the game, he had that pick. I just think he's really, really good. And, I mean, if he was in the draft, I'd take him top 10, maybe not top 5 because he's a safety. So his position is very mandatory or something you should look for. But I'd take him in the top 10. I think he's that good. But the only thing they really couldn't stop was the running back in the pass game, especially on those wheel routes. They just couldn't stop that. It killed them at times, but I mean, they won the game, so I mean, it's fine. But those wheel routes really killed them, the running back out of the backfield, which it was in their game plan because Texas actually throws the ball at their running back a lot, but they just couldn't stop it. But talking about Ohio State's defense and all of their good players and all that, I thought Texas defense was just as good, if not better, throughout the entire night, beside the one screenplay. Beside that, I mean, they shut down everything. I mean, Ohio State's offense past 2 games had looked unstoppable. And Texas played incredible and stopped them for the most part. They completely took out Jeremiah Smith, who looked like the best player in the country. He only had 1 reception for 3. And then beside the first drive where Mecca Ikabuka, I'm going to call him Ikabuga. I'm sorry. Ikabuga. Beside the first drive where he got a few receptions and yards, they completely shut him down too. I thought their defense played outstanding throughout the entire night. The only problem is they didn't stop the run, which is the key to the game. And Ohio State doesn't really run the ball much, but when they did, they got a bunch of yards. But offensively, Will Howard played good for the most part. He was 24 for 33, 289 yards, 1 touchdown and a pick. And he had a 90 QBR. And he should have had a rushing touchdown, but, he decided to eat dirt. Just wanted. Also, I really need an update. I don't know if you guys watched the game, but there's a huge golf ball in Will Howard's hand. I really need an update on that. Like, really do, for the national championship, because that looked disgusting with his hand. But anyway, Henderson, he had a personal foul that ruined the drive earlier in the game, but he absolutely made up for it with a 75-yard screen to the house. And then Junkins, he played possessed throughout that entire game. He was even pancaking people on blocks. He just played angry. He was talking trash the entire game, I'll tell you that. He was running his mouth, but he backed every bit of it up, and I knew Henderson and Junkins, I knew they were a dynamic duo, and they played like it. Henderson had 6 carries for 42 yards and 7 yards a pop with a 75-yard touchdown reception, and Junkins had 9 carries for 36 yards and 2 touchdowns and 3 receptions for 22 yards. They did what they normally do. And when the Ohio State wanted to run the ball, they could run the ball on will. They just don't because, they have too many weapons. But Carnell Tate really stepped up big for them. He's going to be a great receiver, too, for them next year. Behind Jeremiah Smith, of course. He had 7 receptions for 87 yards. Emeka Ibuka was hot in the first drop, but after that he got quiet. But he still had 5 receptions for 51 yards, which is okay. And then Jeremiah Smith was bracketed and doubled the entire game. He was actually tripled in some nights. That's what you got to do with a receiver like that. But he only had 1 reception for 3 yards, like I said. And the offense didn't do what they've done in the past 2 games in the playoff. But, they got the job done. They got the win, and that's all that matters. And in the national championship game now, Jeremiah Smith's going to go for 300 yards. But I was kidding by that. He ain't going for 300 yards. But I thought Quinn Ewers played good until the very end, of course, where he just got lazy. I feel like he just gave up. But he was 23 for 39, 283 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, and 69.3 QBR. Especially during the second half, he started to pick it up. Ohio State started causing pressure, and Quinn would have to run around. Like that play he made where he was going down and he flipped it to his running back. That was a really good play. I thought he just made great decisions throughout the entire night for the most part. Wisner and Blue were okay for most of the night. They couldn't run the ball at all, which is a huge part of Texas offense. But they really turned it up in the pass game. Wisner had 17 carries for 46 yards and only averaged 2.7 yards a carry, which is not good. But he had 6 receptions for 42 yards, so that's good. And then Blue had 4 carries for 16 yards, averaged 4 yards a carry, with 5 receptions for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns passing. Also, in my opinion, not really in my opinion, the world's opinion, they should have used Arch Manning more on short yardage opportunities. But Sarkisian is so smart, and he's so smarter than you that he's not going to use Arch Manning because he's smarter than you, even though everybody's telling him to. He's just not going to do it because he's big brain, because ego. I hate it. They would have beat Georgia probably both times if they used Arch Manning, by the way. Look at the Georgia Tech game or the Notre Dame game. We can't stop a running QB. So Arch Manning would have looked like the second coming of Vince Young against our team. I guarantee it. I talk so much crap about Georgia, and I'm wearing a Georgia sweatshirt. This is funny. But, yeah, Matthew Golden, like I mentioned earlier, he stepped up in the playoffs. He got hurt in the first quarter and randomly just decided, I'm going to play in the fourth quarter. He tried to play, but he couldn't do much after that. They tried to throw him the ball, and he went up, and he was hurt, obviously. But he had 2 receptions, 51 yards. And basically, like I said from the beginning, I knew this game was going to come down to 2 things. It was, could Texas run the ball, and who would seize the key moments when they presented themselves. And Ohio State was able to take away the run, and they were able to capitalize in big moments, and they were able to capitalize on Texas's misfit on the 75-yard touchdown. They completely fell apart at the goal line and with the scoop and score, and then Quinn Ewers fumbling, and Jet Sawyer taking it all the way. And then Quinn Ewers just made a bad decision on the last pick. We ain't got to talk about that. It's just a bad decision. Don't throw it near Caleb Downs. That's the moral of the story. Don't do that. Like I said earlier, Ohio State's just playing angry. They're just playing with an aggression and a passion. They took the Michigan loss to heart. Everybody was clowning them and all that. And they're just playing with a fire that's unmatched, and I think they're really scary right now. But my dad said this during the game, and I think it's a really good quote. This is not verbatim what my dad said, but he said something along this lines during the game. He says, I think I want Texas to lose more than I want Ohio State to win. That completely sums up how I felt about this game. Because I don't like either these teams. I just hate Texas because I hate the way they act. And we've played them so many times. They think they're the big dog and they run the SEC and stuff like that. So I'm glad they lost. And I'm really glad that they're going to be sitting watching the national championship game just like Georgia, who happened to be the same team that played you twice, beat you twice, and beat you with their backup quarterback. How does that feel, Texas? But yeah, Ohio State's crazy hot right now, and they're scary, and they're in the natty. They're going to be tough to beat. And then now for my official prediction, Ohio State versus Notre Dame game. Like I said, Ohio State's crazy hot, but Notre Dame's defense is no joke, especially their pass defense. Marcus Freeman and Ryan Day, I think they both coach their teams well, and they both have their teams ready to play. And I think it should be an interesting game on Monday. Okay, predictions I've been wrong lately. I've been missing a lot of them, but my official prediction for this game is wait. What do you mean? The national championship has already happened. It's already occurred. The national championship was Ohio State, Texas. That was the national championship game. This is not the national championship game. Even though it's technically the national championship game, this is not the national championship game. We just watched it. It was Ohio State, Texas. That was the national championship game. In fact, I think the best three teams in the country were all on the same side of the bracket. I think the best three teams in the country were Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon. And I know people would go crazy if I say that, but listen, they just had a bad game. Okay, any other game, the game would be close, or Oregon may win that game sometimes. They just had a really bad game. That's all it was. By the way, let's give it a clap up for the committee for putting the best three teams on the same side of the bracket. Woo! Good job. We love you. Fix the format. It's terrible. But anyway, I think Notre Dame's defense will be able to contain Ohio State's pass game early. I do think that because I think they're that good. But I think Ohio State game plan early is going to be run the ball, and I think they're going to be able to run all over them, which is going to cause them to have to put more people in the box, and then good luck trying to stop these receivers one-on-one. Have fun. And then also running the ball is going to open up play action and will ignite the passing game. I'm expecting another breakout game from Julio Jones. I mean Jeremiah Smith, as he becomes one of the cover athletes for college football 26 with Arch Manning and probably Ron Williams. I don't know. I'm just yapping. Something like that. But he's probably going to be on the cover because I'll make him a lot of money because he's one of the best players in the country. Also, Caleb Downs should be in that conversation, by the way. He's the best player in the country. But I legit think Notre Dame's offense is about to get shut down by Ohio State. I love their defense. And Notre Dame better hope and pray that they can run the ball with Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Leonard. They better, because if they can't, this game will get ugly. And I mean ugly real quick, because that defense will get tired if they're on the field so much. So you better have clock management. You better keep that offense off the field. But I think Ohio State's defense is just that good. This game could get ugly, but I don't think it will get that ugly because I think they'll be able to run the ball a little bit. But I think Ohio State's just too good, and I think they're playing too ticked off over that Michigan game. And they should be thanking Michigan for igniting their team and winning them a national championship. But I think it'll be a close game at first. But after a while, I see Ohio State just over-talenting them and just being too much. My official score prediction, I'm going to go with Ohio State 34 and Notre Dame 17. So 34-17, Ohio State. That's my official prediction. I've been wrong, but it's my prediction. And my last thing about all this. Please fix the playoff format. There's no reason Boise State should be having a bye. There's no way. And the best three teams are on the same side. Please stop. And that's all I got for this episode. If you notice on all my social media stuff, I posted my NFL predictions. Obviously, I will not talk about this episode. I had too much to talk about with the college football. So I'm not going to be talking about that. Also, disclaimer, I had to give it one day late because I had it set up and everything. I just forgot because I moved in this weekend. So I was actually busy with moving in and all that stuff. But I will explain all my predictions and why I made the predictions and all that in next week's episode. So you're going to have to stay tuned for that. So sorry, I know you don't want to watch me, but You're going to have to if you want to figure out why I said everything about those things. Sorry. But be sure to give me your feedback and opinions in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube or on my socials. How you think this episode went? How can I improve this podcast? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? Or maybe words of encouragement, something. Anything's useful, and I'll try to get back to y'all. Once again, my X or Twitter is Camo Sports or at Camo Munsaic. My TikTok is Camo Munsaic or Camo. My Instagram is Camo_M_4. My Facebook is Camo Munsaic. If you enjoyed, I would greatly appreciate if you gave this a like and a subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. And share this with a friend or family member and make this thing blow up. But anyway, if you enjoy me yapping and enjoy watching me, you should head over to my Twitch. I should be streaming on Friday at 8 o'clock. So you can head over to my Twitch. So it should be today at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And I'll be playing college football or be doing Marvel Rivals with my brother. Either one. Mainly with the streams. It's not going to be high quality or anything. I mean, my internet probably go out and stuff like that. But I'm just trying to have a little bit of fun, entertain some of y'all that would enjoy that type of stuff. So if you want to, just come ahead and get on stream. But anyways, I've talked a ton. You're probably tired of me talking. You probably want me to shut up right now. You probably already clicked off the video. But sorry, I know I'm really bad at this. I'm trying to improve, and I will improve as I do this more and more. It really means a lot if you did stick through this entire thing and actually decide to listen. And I want to thank you if you even was clicked on it for a second. Thank you. It actually means the world to me. But anyway, I will see y'all next week if you're just watching the podcast, or tonight if you want to come watch my stream. Also, remember to follow my socials for updates. I'll be updating y'all when I'm posting or when I'm streaming or whatever, or just live updates on games and stuff like that. And that's all I got, beside one final thing before I go. Atlanta Falcons, please, please, please sign Jameis Winston. Please. He doesn't have to play. He could be the backup quarterback. He could be on the practice squad, but I just need his interviews. He's hilarious and the best part of the NFL. Please, Falcons, sign Jameis Winston or trade for him, whatever we have to do. We need Jameis Winston in Atlanta. Please. I'm out, y'all. Peace.